the goal or the intention is to find or to inspire the next generation of studio owners.
Okay, not scare them.
Not scare them. Well, I mean,
Maybe a little
honestly,
bit.
a little bit, because people say, like, is this for me or is it not? You know, we don't want them to waste $200,000 to find out they don't want to be a studio owner. So, so a little bit. Welcome to FrameOne. I'm Drysen. Today I'm hanging out with Dustin and AJ from 12 Midnight. First off, thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So 12 Midnight, you guys do a lot of video, you do motion, but you've worked for clients like Discover Card, Callaway, Dickies, Disney Channel, a bunch of other odds and ends as well. So kind of the goal of FrameOne is to talk about the emotional journey you guys experienced going from, startup to where you are here today.
Mm-hmm.
I understand you guys are 4.5 years old now?
Yeah, so we're in our fifth year right now.
Fifth year? That's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. We actually have like this kind of joke about that because we did a 3-year anniversary party and then we had this whole, is this fourth, fifth? We're in our fifth. We just had our fourth. So yeah, we're in our 5th year.
Dustin likes to round up. I'm the conservative. I'm the conservative one.
Oh, I love it. By the time this airs, it'll be 5. It'll be fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Exactly.
So what I want to kind of do is just kind of walk through like the first startup company, how it transformed. But Dustin, as I understand, this isn't your first video company. You had Into Retrospect when you're back in Iowa, correct?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, between that agency to what you're doing now, how does that feel different starting the Studio 12 Midnight, how it is today?
Yeah, I mean, back then I was like fresh out of I started that in college, honestly, and it was just a way I got a camera and started filming weddings.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. I think ended up 3 years in that we were doing about 25 weddings a year or so. Which was a lot,
especially in the north. You only get 6 months of the year in Iowa.
It's like gotta hit it when the time's right, and there's a season for it. Yep. So it's like every weekend, sometimes twice a weekend, filming weddings, and really like I was very green. I figured out what my camera was like in that moment. Like I was able to get on the camera. I got a ton of reps on the camera. I knew how to change things quickly and go to different light settings.
Yeah.
But like really, I knew absolutely nothing about how to run a business. So it was really just, let's get that video production filmed, edited, out the door, and get paid for it, and do the next one. I didn't really know, what we were doing, and then we'd buy gear whenever we could upgrade, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I guess like comparison now, we have a lot more like thought goes into what we're doing. And we definitely have a lot more conversations and strategy behind it. And it's like just learn over the course of those learning experiences, like I've learned a lot what not to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was more of like on the side of other things that I was doing, but I was still practicing my craft in my full-time jobs at that moment. So I was working at a software company at the time, and then went to another agency, Gigantic Design, after that. And that's really like where I kind of was like, I really want to have my own thing someday. But I also knew, that I wasn't the one that I didn't want to know anything about the numbers. I was not a numbers guy. I just want to create.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
It worked out when I met AJ. But
No, I mean, we just got out of a call with bookkeepers like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So
now I'm in the numbers.
Now he knows the numbers too.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a beer time talk for that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like numbers either. I'm really not my thing.
It's like, hey, just tell me, like, can we or can we not?
Am I broke or are we okay?
Yeah. No.
Well, let's go back to the pre-incubation period of 12 Midnight. How did you guys meet?
Oh, it's a really bizarrely random meeting. I moved to Fort Worth we moved to Fort Worth about the
almost
same
6
time.
years
Yeah,
ago.
about 6 years ago. And my wife and I sold a house from a nearby. We were in DFW, but we were in a different city for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to come to Fort Worth, so we sold the house and we simplified and went to an apartment right here in the heart of the city. Just been built, really, really nice place. And in fact, it wasn't built yet. There were a lot of, like, our building was done, but the place was basically under construction.
Yeah.
And I think Dustin may have been one of like 2 other people that lived in the whole place.
Yeah. It's like a resort. We had it to ourselves. Like, it was just like a literal resort to ourselves.
The first like 6 months was glorious. Yeah. It was like living in a resort by yourself. And, we both have dogs, and we were walking the dogs one day and just started talking. If you've ever met Dustin, you know he'll strike up a conversation with you and find some kind of common ground. So
I've known you for all of like 30 seconds in person.
Yeah.
I get that sense
Yeah.
already.
so he was like, "You got a dog? Cool.
Yeah.
Let's hang out."
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
awesome.
much, yeah.
So you guys started talking, hanging out, and it just happened that you're both interested in video?
Yeah, I mean, that was like what he was saying is that we just started talking about music, really. I think that was probably like our first like connection.
Yeah.
Because we both really like a lot of the same artists and a lot of the same music. And then AJ was just like, yo, you want to go get a beer?
Yeah.
I think it was that same night. And so I went out with him and his wife, Amanda, and we just hung out, became friends. And then I think like a week later, he said, yo, you should come to this place called Black House. It was here in the city. And at the time, like moving to Fort Worth when we moved here was perfect timing. Like all of the arts and all of the media stuff was just blowing
Kicking
up.
off. Yeah.
And so I moved here to get away from all of that. And I was doing the video stuff and I was doing a lot of client work and I was just exhausted from it a little bit and not really sure what direction I want to go. And had met my now fiance. So I was like, I'm going to move.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to move. Like I'm in Iowa. I loved the guys that I worked with. I loved even some of the work that we did, but I was just really like, I felt ceilinged a little bit. Like I wanted to get out of Iowa and try to go chase some big things.
There's not a huge video market for the caliber you're doing now in the upper Midwest.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like that was the hardest part was I left a lot of friends and family behind to come down here. But yeah, whenever we met like that week, he said, yo, let's go to Black House. Let's go check this place out. And I was like, what is that? It's a house. And we go, these people literally have their house painted black. You go inside and it's like a little market. And there's like all these people selling prints. There's people selling art. There's people selling whatever. And so I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like the next couple days later, he goes, yo, let's go to Black House again. And I was like, okay, now it's like 9 p.m. And we went the other day at like noon. Like, what is this place? So we go and it's literally just a party. Like they have like DJ. It was just awesome. And it was all these people in the arts community. And it was like a very community driven thing. So it was really, really cool. And it like gave me an opportunity to kind of start photographing some of that party atmosphere, that hangout atmosphere.
Yeah.
And really that's like kind of what re-sparked that thing for me. And then, like a year and a half after us hanging out and going to a lot of different art, media, city type things, we ended up just talking about this idea. And I think I called him on the way back from Iowa and I was like, yo, I think I got a name. And we started talking through it, and then we ended up with 12 Midnight.
There was a long list before then.
Yeah.
and just to back up, like, not that this is not an episode about Fort Worth Black House, but it's kind of a bizarre thing to even try to understand. It was almost like just a communal space. This family lived there, Noel and Sarah, and they wanted to create a space for their friends and people in the city who created art, who did crafts, who were musicians. So they would do,
cool.
Like Dustin said, we went to probably some kind of local arts gallery, basically in this bottom floor of their house. And then like a week later, it's like a fucking house party with hundreds of people there and DJs.
I have some cool photos. I can give them to you. We could
put them on B-roll.
Like,
there we go. Yeah.
And so he was like, "What is this place?" And I was like, "I don't know how to explain it. You just got to come with me. Just trust me."
Leap of faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys start talking. 12 Midnight comes to be. Why 12 Midnight? Where'd that name come from?
Well, so that was like my boss and mentor from Iowa, Tom Culberson, who's partner at Gigantic. He was always like giving me shit like burning the midnight oil, because when I actually worked at a software company before that, and he was my boss there.
Yeah.
And they have a really, really unique story as well, but we won't get into that now. But,
Right.
So he basically like at the time said, hey, I'm going to start an agency, but I'm doing this stuff on the side and it's called Rally Collective.
Okay.
And so at 8 to 5, I'm doing the software stuff. I'm the videographer editor at this software company. And then after 5 o'clock, I go home, do whatever, go skateboard, go eat, whatever, go home. And then at 8, 9, I'd start working again on Rally Collective stuff. And so Tom would stay up at 11 because he's same thing. He's like burning the midnight oil. And so it was always this thing of like this midnight oil and like always just like kind of doing that. And then we started talking about like midnight being the time of day that's like a lot of people are still up, but also some people are in bed. So it's like the next day, but it's the same day.
Yeah.
So it's like this in between point. And so, yeah, we just were, 12 midnight just came to be.
And it just had that beautiful ring to it.
Just sounded good.
It sounded right. It's very long. Was perfect for
which they did a
logos
good
and stuff.
job like designing the brand because of that. So.
Yeah, it was, and there was another point too. Like to back up again a little bit, I did not come from video production world at all. When we met, I was in finance.
Okay,
but I was
that's
like,
a good relationship. Then.
Yeah. But I was like,
I listened to a lot of
frustrated.
Gary Vee at the time.
True.
So that's why he's like, find somebody who is good at what you're not.
Right, 100%.
Yeah. But I was like a frustrated art kid, who stumbled his way into a finance gig and did it for like 13 years. And so I had a really flexible schedule when we met. I tend to do, when I am like making anything art wise, it's usually late. Like if you followed me on Instagram or something, you're going to see my posts at midnight, 1 a.m.
Yep.
I don't know why. It's that I have clarity. I have some headspace at that time. Nobody's
bothering
emailing me
you.
or sending me
So,
slacks.
Nobody's bothering.
And so it kind of fit for that too. And so Dustin just came. I don't know where he came from, but Dustin came up with the name, and I was like, it's perfect.
I love it. So you guys started this company together. At that point, what was your confidence level that we're going to be crushing it? We're going to do like to the moon. How did you guys feel day one?
I mean, I'm always like, I know, like I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? So I think like I didn't know how fast it would grow, but the first day I was like, yeah, we can do this. We can figure it out. We can make videos. We can make money doing this. And then we sold like our first set of like 10 videos for like $3,000. And then we started doing it, and I was
that
like,
project spanned a year.
Yeah, like I didn't know about how to price anything. I didn't, and like when I was doing wedding videos, it was just like package. Here's a package.
Right.
Here's this. Yeah, I'll do this.
It's rinse and repeat the same thing every weekend. Done.
And then you start doing brand work. It's like, what do you guys need? Well, that's a little too much for us, and okay, well we'll do whatever because we want to just do the work.
Right. So that first year was definitely a startup, like growing, hungry.
Fully,
bootstraps.
And we didn't.
Thing.
I mean, I feel like this is a thing that entrepreneurs say a lot, but we didn't pay ourselves for a while.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we were both in a position that, we could pay the bills, and we had jobs that paid the bills or most of the bills, and so we were able to, the first 6-12 months, really take the income that we did receive and put it right back in the business. We got a bank account, we got a small credit card, we bought a camera and a lens and paid that bitch off in like 6 months and
maxed it out.
Had a little bit of money left in the bank. But it was, we were fortunate to be able to do that, because we did have some flexibility in our schedules. Yeah. But it was confidence level wise. It's hard to go back, to that person that long ago. But I think Dustin and I's one of our biggest strengths can also be a weakness sometimes, and it's what he said. Like we're hyper confident in the things that we can achieve things, but it's not like pride. It's just because we know we're gonna figure it. We're gonna do whatever it takes.
You have the drive to
we
put
will
in the
not
time,
stop.
the energy, whatever.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So contrast, where you are today, versus 5 years ago. How have things changed?
Man, immensely. I mean, things have changed immensely. It's been like there's a lot more of creative strategy that goes into what we do. We have we have a whole team now, and so like having a team is one of the hardest things. Was having to let go of control. When AJ and I first met, he didn't know really anything about video, and he actually started shooting photographs, and then that inspired him to get into film, and then he started doing some film stuff, and then I actually saw him. I used to work like in this cabinet industry, and I was like, yo, I need somebody to draw me this door. I cannot draw, and so he draws a door, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like this is really good. So he started doing the art and the drawing, the painting, and got back into that as well. But yeah, I mean, it was like there was a lot of the time where it was like a lot of the having to do the video work was teaching AJ like how this works and what Premiere, and so it was a lot of that at the jump. So then having to let go of control was like I was directing, I was shooting, I was editing,
It's a lot.
And it's hard because you have like when you shoot your own thing and then you put it out there, kind of what the footage is, and so then it's like, okay, shoot this and then try to describe it to somebody else to take care of and edit. Like having to take a step back and be more like thoughtful about how you approach somebody and telling them that what they've done is close but not right or something like that, you know?
Yeah, how do you guide somebody without like, just crushing their dreams?
Yeah, yeah. It's been like a really good experience to like learn that and understand. But it's also one of those things that was an extremely hard thing
Yeah.
for me. But as soon as I started letting go of control of one thing, like things started falling into place. So I started realizing like the more I can like trust others to do,
Yeah.
then the more we can do as a whole.
You are freeing yourself up to actually focus on things and grow things and push things versus having to like be a bottleneck for
Yeah,
everything.
exactly.
I love it.
Yeah, it was just one of those moments where we were like, now we look at it and we have today, we just literally before I was coming in, we just got a new contract back that we have our 9th person, including AJ, myself. So
Did you
7
imagine you're gonna have 7 employees when you started this thing?
Yes,
I said 25, and he's like, "That's a lot."
Yeah,
But
it is a lot.
I was like,
9
now
is
I'm
a
like,
lot.
maybe we go like, that 25 to 50 range, like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like,
We
Is
from the
there a
big.
limit to scaling? I guess is the question.
I don't think so. It's like I think we'll know when like things are right, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
I think it maybe like we'll scale up and down a little bit, like
That's
in
fair.
that range.
I think the
but-
limit is like dependent on like quality control, right?
Yeah.
Making sure you've got the right people in the right positions, and that you're not scaling things too quick. That the work is suffering, right?
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't think so. It can be as big as we want it to be or are able to do it. So yeah, I don't think there's really a necessarily a limit, at least for what we do. We do a lot of brand work, but we want to expand into a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So on the team thing, from the very beginning, we knew, Dustin and I talked about that we wanted to build something bigger than ourselves. Literally since day one,
Yeah.
we've said that, and so we definitely. I didn't imagine it to be the way it is, or to be as quick as it was, and all the things that go along with it. But we always wanted it to be bigger, not even big, just bigger than us.
Bigger than
That's
us,
awesome.
yeah.
We wanted it to be its own like living, breathing thing.
a place for like people to come and like really be able to flex a little bit of what they know, and then also come up with some cool ideas for
Yeah.
companies. It's always like we're always gonna have to do, some of the work that we don't like
Yeah.
no matter where you're at or what you're doing. But at the same time, there's like a really cool way to approach that type of work and be creative with it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, so it helps you get ready for some of those bigger clients like that come in and you're really trying to upsell on the dollar why there's so much value there, and then that's prepping you for those moments. So
That is the perfect segue to my next question. I want to throw back to way back in the early days at 12
Yeah.
midnight again. You had those $3,000 clients, lasted for a year. It's just a grind. How did you go through like weeding out and starting to like step up to the caliber you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, we still are challenged with that. I think like there's a lot of times where even the big name clients always don't have the big name budgets.
Yeah.
And so it's always a little bit of that. Like, is it financially worth it? Is it, or is it something that will help us get that next thing?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we always kind of like ask ourselves, like, is this one that we want to chase or is it not? And I think you have to be a little honest with yourself and not really look at the dollar amount all the time, but you have to balance it because we got to make sure all the other 7 people are eating as well.
That's a lot of stress, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely
can be.
is. I think like you really have to just know like where with AJ knowing the numbers, like it makes things a lot more clear. And so we know what our goals are.
Yeah.
We know what we have to hit from a sales perspective, and we know how do we get that? Well, we go through recurring clients, new clients. We have a little bit of a strategy. It's still something that's still being developed because him and I have finally the past year really gotten to be able to do some real business development.
Yeah.
So that's why we've been able to grow a little bit quicker.
Yeah, it's been kind of, it was such like a springboard. It happened like so fast, and so, because we went at it really, really hard, and it started working, and we had other jobs at first, and then it became a full-time thing very, very quickly, and then we started needing other people to do the work, and it's like we're developing all the systems, processes, figuring out accounting and invoicing and marketing and everything else that goes along with it along the way. We didn't know. I had a personal finance background, not like I'd never started a business before.
Yeah.
So, but we knew
It's the same thing, right?
I think
Numbers are numbers, right?
it's exactly the same. But it is, right? Like it's simple. Some of the simple stuff is creating a budget. Like if you create a budget for yourself, as long as you stick within it and you've got enough income to cover those things, it's the same with a business. Yeah. So it's not different in that sense. It's just, it is different when you are responsible for, 7 other people. But yeah, man, it's been a journey since then.
So I want to talk a little bit about the marketing and branding, because there's just a polish that, like, you go to your website, you go to your Instagram, like, it just feels nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Was that something you guys had figured out day one, or when did you kind of like start to come into your own, so to speak?
Day one, like I said, we have to be brand forward. We can't afford it right now, so I'll make a quick little logo.
Yeah.
So I made this really bad 12 Midnight Visual Makers logo. We were trying to be all thoughtful, and it was this thing that was like it worked for what we were doing at the time, right? And it looked good enough. And so we knew, like, as soon as we had enough funding, or if we had enough dollars in the door, then we wanted to go back to Gigantic, who I worked with, and we wanted them to do our brand. Luckily, they're really good to us and gave us a lot of stuff for what we paid for. And,
nice. Relationships are everything.
Yeah. and I think, like, it wasn't cheap for us, especially at the time. And I think, like, we really put everything that we had into the brand, into the website, and into, like, getting those assets that we need to be able to polish it. And then the polish has been the work over the past year and a half, 2 years that we've had it. So when we developed the brand, we brought Chloe Gonzalez on as our brand manager, and she's now today our creative director. And so her job and role has evolved a little bit from that brand side, but she's the one that's really, like, developed and polished the brand to what it is today and utilized the assets.
And that was just mainly her sole focus.
Yeah, I mean, at the jump, it was that, and, like, our social page and making us look good on the outside. Making our stuff stand out, making us our messaging clear. And putting our website in a position to be looked at as, like, oh, well, this company's been around a long time, when really at the time we hadn't been.
Right.
Dustin and I both we love branding. I took a bunch of graphic design courses in school. I thought that's the direction I was going to go with my career. And a bunch of adults told me I couldn't make money at it. And so I started second guessing it, and got offered a finance job. Right.
Yeah.
And, but going back, I used to develop logos. I used to, like, literally hand draw custom typefaces and do illustration, all that kind of stuff. Right. And so I understood and appreciated branding
when things look good. Yeah.
And Dustin came from a branding agency, and we knew it was important right out of the gate to stick out, for people to understand a little bit just by looking at the website, looking at our Instagram or whatever, that they kind of had a feel for who we were and who 12 Midnight is. And now it's not. People still, I think, sometimes think 12 Midnight is us, and we'll get DMs, and it's literally somebody else talking to them, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of developed into its own persona, right? Since then, but we knew right out of the gate, and it was terrifying because we spent a bunch of money that we really weren't ready to spend at the time, but we knew it was important. And thankfully, Dustin's a really good salesman. So, Gigantic did a great job with our design. They downloaded our brains and walked through a bunch of the things that were things we liked, references for other brands, other films, typefaces, colors, all these things. And Eric Martins and Jay just did, like, an incredible job of representing all the things that we really, really liked. And then to Dustin's point, Chloe kind of, with us, has, like, walked it out so much farther since then internally.
So when you first saw that first logo, like, unveiled, talk to me about that.
Well, I think when they showed it to us, so Eric Martins, he mentioned him. Eric's the senior designer over there, and he had kind of been like, yo, I'm going to give you a presentation. Like, he didn't send me anything, and this is my homie, right? He's like, I'm not sending you anything. Like,
suspense.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I'm like, dang, okay. Like, he puts it on the screen, and it's like you see the very first page, and you see this little peek of a logo, and you're like, oh, shit. Like, this is cool, And I think that's one of the biggest things is I've said that to AJ from day one is, like, I just want to make cool shit. Like, that's all I literally care about is I just want to make cool shit. I want to play a little golf. And I want to have a good life. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's really my goal personally. And so I think, like, from that moment, they knew that about me. I told AJ that, and then we saw that brand, and I'm like, this is cool.
That just hits home.
Yeah. So I was like, as he's scrolling through it, it was just, I think AJ and I were both like, on the inside. I think we were in the same room at the time. And so we were like looking at it and we weren't like saying anything. And then at the end, we were both like, dude, this is
Nailed
awesome.
it.
Yeah, like this is exactly what we were talking about. Thank you. Like this is perfect.
And there's a lot of little touches. We don't even have to get into that, you know, if
Yeah.
you want to be cautious of time. But there's a lot of little touches in the logo that we can, you know, that are very
Like
thoughtful.
on this logo here, it's actually like a 16 by 9 like aspect ratio.
Oh,
on the
snap.
one. Yeah, so they threw that in, and then like the colors from you know, the color bars and tone, or like on a slate or whatever. Like we kind of took those colors and then made them like our own tones.
Yeah.
That were a little bit more cinematic feeling, and so that's kind of like a couple of little touches there. With
It's
that.
amazing the
Yeah.
amount of Easter eggs or just little thought processes that can go into a logo.
Yeah, and
People
we
don't
have a
appreciate.
logo that we haven't even put out yet. Still, that they've gave us a.
Oh
while
man, is
ago
there a
that-
rebrand coming out?
No,
No.
I think it's just like one that we'll use for something specific that
Got
we
it.
don't know what it is.
We've kind of got some alternate logos. A lot of people know us for this like TWLV one. It's
one.
Yeah,
really
yep,
cool
yep.
too. Yeah, that
Yeah.
one. And it's I don't really know why we did it. I think we both love like A24, and they always have a lot of fun with their logos.
Yeah.
And but it's always the same one. But
I think
one
we
of
told
the-
them like A24 Nike.
yeah,
That's what
Yeah.
make us that, but our own.
Yeah.
so
yeah.
Eric developed several different logos, and we mostly use. There's like a couple variations of the main one, and then there's like the TWLV, but there's a couple like that we'll probably use for a different project.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm curious. So you have the new branding rolls out. You have someone specifically developing your branding page and on how all of 12 Midnight looks. At what point do you feel like that first major milestone client came in the door after that?
Man, we were actually the client that we did the 3,000 video, or I think it was like almost like a little closer to 4, but those 10 videos was actually for the city of Fort Worth, Visit Fort Worth.
Okay.
And so they asked us the following year to come down and shoot South by Southwest for them.
Snap.
And so I was
That's an
like,
upgrade.
Yeah. So I was like, well, let's not shoot South by Southwest. Let's go like do some live. Let's turn some stuff around, like next day, same day type stuff.
Yeah.
We had no reason. Like there was
You just did it.
yeah, we were just like we don't even sell that today. Like we were like, this would be cool. Let's just do it. And I think that we learned that we don't want to sell that. And so it was like one of those things that was we were so, like I think today we could absolutely smash that.
Oh, we would kill it.
But
yeah.
I think that at the time we had no business.
Infrastructure,
Yeah, we
yeah.
didn't know. You know, we had 2 guys that we freelanced out, John and Braxton, and then myself and AJ. And we were switching. Everybody could edit, everybody could shoot, and we were like rotating. AJ was managing everybody's time and where they needed to be, and it was this thing that was just like we worked our asses off. Like it was, we were up until 4 a.m. like trying to finish edits and stuff for next
the content
day.
turned out great, and it you know I think one of the reasons people work with us is because we give a shit about the impact.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we can control that. And so that they had great impressions. The content looked good, but it was a beating
Yeah.
of a weekend because we worked around the clock basically.
Scratched and clawed for that
Oh,
one.
man.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
I bet the beer
that was our
tasted really
first
good
like
after
little
that.
tiff.
Yeah, we had
our
our
little
first,
first
fight that
little
weekend.
argument.
Well, let's talk about not that tip specifically,
Yeah.
but when you have 2 business owners, typically you have one person who's the implementer and one person who's the visionary, so to
Yeah.
speak. Does that ring true?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
probably
so.
pretty
Yeah,
Yeah. So it seems like kind of the job of the visionary, you know, run free, think of all these crazy ideas, and implementer's kind of like, okay, that sucks, let's do this. But in order to get that without hurting feelings, takes a lot of communication, clarity, and just open honesty.
Yeah.
How has that relationship evolved for you guys over the years?
Man, I think we were really good friends first. Like,
Yeah.
so we kind of had already known how to like speak to one another and like tell each other what we think. And we also always like had this music and art side of us that it's like all subjective.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you'd be like, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like I think we learned how to communicate that. And like there's still times where it's like we'll get stuck on something and, you know, we just try to like work through it. But I think like at the end of the day, we all know like none of that shit's personal. And it's all just like we're trying to make something good and everybody's there for the right reason. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's like you have to kind of put that like pride aside or your ego and sometimes like pick your battles, you know.
Man, I mean, it's like any other close relationship. You know, you're gonna disagree. You're gonna you have to communicate, and the good and bad, and it's not always easy. We don't always. Thankfully, we see eye to eye on a lot, or we can make each other see eye to eye. You know, but it requires a lot of communication, and then you know when you're a dick, just apologize, just
Yeah.
fucking own it, and it's squashed and over, and it's
Move
not a
on
big
and-
deal.
yeah.
And you learn from it, right? And we don't really fight, but we've had moments where we disagreed on shit, and
Yeah.
we I think thankfully we're both like empathetic people who want to move past it, is and create this cool thing together, so we move past it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm curious, you're as you're moving forward and hiring people and bringing people on, making sure that people are in the right roles, the right seats, the right personality for the right job. How have you gone through and kind of just designed or developed 12 Men to be what it is, to make sure that people are all representing who you are, what you want to be?
That's probably the hardest thing about the business. Like it's always a chicken and the egg
Yeah.
like scenario. So back to the first big client, like we were talking about, that event is where we met our first big client. Actually, it was TX Whiskey. And so like once we started working with TX and started understanding like what their needs were, that's what we started basing a lot of our like strategy around, because they were a bigger client for us at the time. We had only done a few projects with them, but then we had actually been called back and back and back. And so, a lot of it was like, yo, let's let's figure out what their needs are. Let's freelance some people. We hired Chloe to help with the brand, but everybody else, let's freelance them out until we can kind of figure out what we would need to make that happen. And then that was a moment where I was still holding on to a lot of the control. I would do the edits and put it, like making sure that the quality that we were putting out the door was what we wanted it to be. And
Yeah, and I think, like, if you don't mind me jumping in
excuse
here real
me,
quick,
sorry.
what Dustin means by chicken and the egg is like that's the numbers part, right? Because we were fully self-funded. We had like a $6,000 credit card limit, and we paid the state $400 for an LLC, and we had a couple $100 in the bank, and then we got that first project, had a little bit of money, spent it on something else. There's business is expensive. People ask why everything costs so much. It's because everything else costs so much, right? So it is chicken and egg when you are self-funding, because you need revenue to pay yourself and pay for the stuff and pay for adding on more people, right?
Yep.
But you can't grow that without we're a service industry job in a lot of ways, right? We make more money by doing more work. So we can't go out and sell a job without someone to do the work. So that's the chicken and the egg part, is you're constantly feel like you're chasing a thing. And I think the other thing that you were trying to get to is how the right people in the right seats. I think that thing it's always a best guess. And I think we've learned to trust our guts on these things. What we've found works really, really well for us is referrals from people we trust.
Yeah.
Everybody at 12 Midnight now was somebody we met personally, by accident, by chance, or was referred to us somehow.
Yeah.
I think literally every person.
Yeah, every single person right now is through a referral. And that was the other thing when we started, was like, I don't know if I want to go put out job postings. I want to headhunt. I want to figure out who do we want to be here and who wants to be here.
Yeah.
More so than who wants a job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Who's going to be passionate about the brand, the work, everything else, not just there for the
Yeah, and it's a personality type, right? Because you can be really, really technically good at what you do, but if you don't give a shit about this work, it's gonna show, you know. And it's not an option for us, And that sounds really tough. We're really not tough at all in person most of the time. In the work environment, we're probably too
Too
nice.
lax. Yeah.
Too nice.
Well, some people might say that. But.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a perfect segue. So when you have to kind of like relinquish control a little bit and kind of like trust these people to do their jobs and to run the vision, that is scary, letting go of control like that. To delegate. I had a question for this and I completely forgot what it was.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna keep talking.
No, you're good, man.
No. But it's going back to the bottleneck thing. I'm curious. Do you guys had when you were trying to relinquish control, let go of things, were you worried about suffering a lack of quality control, that things would go downhill?
Yeah, I think like that's been a big thing for us this past year, is the team communication.
Yeah.
We've been able to like have good moments of that. We've had moments where we've learned from it and had to communicate better. And we always, as a team, are reminding ourselves like you have to communicate to one another, because I think one of the biggest things with relinquishing control is that nobody knows who's actually doing what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think that's been one of the biggest things, is we've been hey, you are the clear point person. You are the clear point person. You make the decision on this. You have to be clear about the communication, because I think then everybody just doesn't know if they should be giving their input, making a decision or not. And so, yeah, that's been one of the biggest things with relinquishing control. It's been a challenge. But yeah, I think we're trying to find processes that work better to make that easier.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where a lot of the time has gone. It's kind of switched a little bit. As we've had more people, we can't offload the shit in our brains to them automatically yet. But yeah, maybe soon. Do we want to have an AI conversation?
I don't. I really don't.
No, yeah.
But
get out of here. I don't want none of that.
But it's finding ways to make that communication easier, more streamlined. So it's using project management software, making sure that it works and that people are using it, putting in notes. It's if we use Slack for a lot of communication, and just making sure that everybody's on the same page on how we communicate information about projects and where the shit is saved. And to Dustin's point, who's doing what, all that stuff has to be communicated, and it needs to be over communicated, because everybody thinks that other people, I think, understand them more than what they actually do.
Yep.
And so you really have to over communicate to communicate enough, I think.
Right. So I'm curious, kind of going back there then, before you were able to relinquish control and help delegate those kind of things, was there a bottleneck for quality control?
Yeah.
Did things start to slip because you weren't trusting people?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. We've had interns. We've had a couple of hires that worked and some that didn't. And there's definitely some moments where when one thing is not going right for a person, it was like causing a lot of stress and friction on the team. And so that is one thing that was really the first time that we've had a big bottleneck, and that was in the past year or so. But I think it was because we were adding so many people, and everybody jives so well that you got to find that next person that can also jive.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure that it is a culture fit from that standpoint, that it is somebody who has the same drive and vision of what they want to do, and then also just somebody who's easy to work with. I think people that
You could be the world's best artist, but if you're an asshole, I don't want to work with you.
Yeah, if you're too stuck on your ideas, or if you can't take direction, or if you can't work in a team environment, then it's probably not a good fit.
Was it ever scary for you guys to start giving direction?
I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I think I am better at that than I am at making videos or whatever sometimes. So I think that for me, I can help get you from point A to point B more than I can actually just go in and make it. I know I'm good at that stuff, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are better than me, So I think from a direction standpoint, that's really where I feel like I can thrive, because I can just come off the top with it, if I need to. So
Sounds like people is kind of your strong set.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about that when I walked in and we were chatting,
Well, and I think that that's created a bottleneck at times, right? Because people on the team can become very reliant on the person who can figure that shit out very quickly, right? And so that's been a big emphasis for our growth the past year, is everybody being less reliant on me, being less reliant on Dustin for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a challenge for us of letting go, because it's hard when you know the answer, or you know how to find the answer in 30 seconds. You don't really want somebody spending 4 hours on it, but that 4 hours may give them the experience to figure this out next time in the same amount of time you would have.
Literally investing in people.
And it's hard to see your people struggle, because you don't want them to, you know what I mean? But you have to let them a little bit sometimes, because that's where you learn. And I think that's one thing that I learned from Tom and Sean at Gigantic was I don't know, figure it out. Yeah.
Oh man, I think we could go down a 3-hour rabbit hole with this.
Yeah.
This is I'm getting really excited. I looked at the clock. I went, no. So before I let you guys go, like I said, the goal of FrameOne is to help inspire the next generation of studio owners, freelancers, if they want to make that jump. So I'm curious, what piece of advice would you give those that want to either start a studio or want to go freelance?
Yeah. Man, I think I've had to learn this. So I think this is a really good piece of advice, because I think AJ told me this probably 100 times. But I think you're going to have really high highs and really low lows. And sometimes it's hard to see past the low lows. So you need to make sure you celebrate the wins and you feel bad about the losses a little equally, you know? So I think like that's the biggest thing for me, taking that away and just like being like, yo, that one didn't work out. We're going to move forward. We're going to learn from it. We're going to do the next thing and we're going to make it better. So I think that's what you just have to like have that in you, that you're going to continue and push on. It's not for everybody. It's definitely tough, but I think like if you want to do it, you can.
Are the rewards worth it?
Absolutely, dude. I mean, we're here today talking on a podcast, you know, in the middle of the day. And I think that's what's like cool, is that we do have a lot of freedom for our team. We work Monday through Thursday as much as we possibly can, but we work really hard on those days. So I think that's, you know, that is worth it. We get to set our own schedules. We get to do what we want to do, but it comes with some added stress. You know, when you start paying a lot of people, it's scary sometimes. So you just gotta like have somebody that knows that you're good.
I would just add on to a couple things. It's gonna take more time and effort than you probably think it's gonna take. Just multiply it. That mental resilience, that emotional resilience is super important. And just know you're gonna have those lows, and it's okay to feel bad. You're gonna have those highs, and it's okay to feel good. And just don't take them too far, and try to stay a little bit grounded in the middle, because it's gonna repeat. It's gonna cycle. I would say the biggest reasons for our success, and take this for whatever you want to, are we care about people. We care about our work. We do our best.
We give a shit.
We give a shit. We try to treat people really well, with respect. We try to make sure that we are hitting for our clients on the work that we're doing, and it's worked to this point, you know. And there's not like a silver bullet that I can give you. We did not have whatever version of success we would call it to this point, because it was given to us. It was fully earned with blood, sweat, and tears. And if you do that, and you care about the client, you care about people, I don't see how you could fail at anything.
Yeah. And I do want to shout out our team real quick.
Yeah.
So Dylan Wallace is our DP. Chloe Gonzalez, our creative director. Alex Prudhoe-Dennis, who you know, is our senior motion designer. Todd Luther, he is our associate producer. And what's quick funny story about Todd, he was an intern with us. He applied for an editing internship, and he wasn't an editor. And so we ended up really liking the kid, and brought him in as associate producer now. And then we have John Warder, who's our senior editor, and then Jewel Noel, she's our project manager. And then is that everybody? Me and AJ, and then we just hired a new designer, Kerrigan Sales. So,
and I'm going to speak as frankly as I can. I bet it feels fucking great.
Yeah, it does, man. It does. I didn't miss anybody, right?
I don't know.
That's the problem now. There's so many people.
When you get the 2550, it's going to be like, all right, let's get the Rolodex.
Yeah, we'll just flash their photos.
If he forgot you, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, AJ, Dustin, thank you guys so much for being here. I super appreciate it. And thanks again for being a FrameOne.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. Yep.